Here we go. Can I be of any help? Son of a...
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cinematic Adventures. Don't forget, if you guys are listening to us on the go, you can find us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, basically anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also find more of our content on our website, themisfitfaction.com. There you find links to not only this show, but some of our other shows like MF Uncensored and the Multiverse Fancast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Paul, and with me, we have a surprise special guest for a couple of reasons. One, he was available. Two, he's got an interest in the topic. And three, co-host Sean had COVID, so he couldn't go see the movie that we're going to talk about. And that is from YouTube, BlindBat8719 himself, our good friend Brendan. Brendan, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, Paul. I'm doing really well. How are you doing?
Oh, can't complain, man. Well, we're going to complain about the movie that we're going to talk about, but
Yeah.
oh man, this is going to be rough. This is going to be rough. I'm kind of sad about it. So, for those of you guys who could not tell by the title, the description, or the thumbnail, if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe, we are talking the latest in one of our most beloved, favorite franchises of all time, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. So the movie, at time of recording, we just saw it. We saw it on 2 days ago and it was the opening weekend as per usual. It's our first time seeing a movie together in God knows how long. I could not even tell you the last time A, I saw a movie, or B, Brendan and I saw a movie together.
That actually, I don't remember the last time we saw a movie together. You're right.
It's been a minute. Yeah, it's definitely been a little while, but it was Ghostbusters. We had to.
No, I agree. I actually think the last time we saw movies together was when they re-released the Ghostbusters original movie in theaters one night.
That's probably pretty fair. But so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do maybe 5-10 minutes of non-spoiler thoughts and just a little bit of discussion. And then we're going to give our spoiler warning. We'll let you guys know when it's coming. And then we are going to break down this movie, the things we liked, the things we didn't like. We're not going to do a full like plot synopsis because, again, the movie just came out. So if you're watching or listening to this, you've probably seen it at this point. But again, non-spoilers, we'll give a warning and then we'll jump right into it. So without spoiling anything, Brennan, what are your initial thoughts on Ghostbusters Frozen Empire?
My initial thoughts is that I think this is a stepping stone, hopefully, to better movies in the franchise.
Okay. All right. I'll give you that one. I find this movie, it is enjoyable in parts, but as a whole, it did not succeed in the way that I was hoping it would.
I think you said it better than I did.
I've been putting a lot of thought into this. So for me, like, we used to do our episodes right after seeing a movie, and we tended to be like riding the high of that movie. Even if the movie wasn't that good, we still came in like excited. The more we think about these movies, the rougher we tend to get on them. Like, we gave Justice League, the original Joss Whedon, like, we gave it good reviews. Terrific. But so for this movie, let's rewind the clock. Now, Brendan and I, we actually became friends because of Ghostbusters when we were, what, 9 or something, like, or even younger.
Yeah, somebody's communion parts. What was that? Third, fourth? I forgot. Wow. Yeah, it's been a long time.
And that was the franchise that Brendan and I bonded over. Big love for the franchise. If you guys aren't familiar with Ghostbusters, you have the original 2 with the original cast, came out in the 80s. Then we had kind of a dry spell of Ghostbusters movies, and we had the TV shows. We had the Real Ghostbusters and Extreme Ghostbusters, because in the
Yes.
in the 90s, everything was extreme. Did you watch Extreme Ghostbusters?
I'm sorry?
Did you watch Extreme Ghostbusters?
Yep, I watched it. I was all that like, this is all cool, and I enjoyed it. I think the highlight again was the Thanksgiving two-parter, because that's when they brought back the old characters. But that was a fun thing. They're like, oh, they got Ghostbusters again. Yeah.
I had all the toys. I had the new proton pack. I had, like, I didn't have the trap. I never had trap. I think I had the original trap, like from the original, like, series.
Yep.
But it's funny because this is a very tiny spoiler. In this movie, they're doing a montage of the Ghostbusters, and they actually show commercials for the toys, like the original commercials. Like, I remember those commercials as a kid.
Yes, I do remember seeing that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's nostalgia. That's awesome.
And I had those toys, man. Like, I was loaded up with Ghostbusters stuff.
I still in my parents' attic have the original proton pack, the original trap. I think the proton pack from Ghostbusters movie 2, and I still have the firehouse.
Oh, that's awesome. When we went to AwesomeCon down in Washington, D.C. recently, and there was an entire like a table of these like actual, like, I don't want to say like actual Ghostbusters, but like that's what they did. They went around, they wore the full uniforms, they had like realistic looking proton packs, they had a giant Slimer bust. It was awesome. But like that's what they did. I think there's also a group in Connecticut. There's like a Ghostbusters group somewhere near us.
Oh,
But
that's awesome.
yeah, who knew, right? Not me.
Right? Yeah.
But so we had this dry spell, and then Ghostbusters the reboot comes out, or Ghostbusters Answer the Call, as it was later determined to be. We did do an
Yeah.
episode on it in a multiverse fancast, but I don't think you and I have ever actually talked about the female-led
The
Ghostbusters.
reason why I haven't talked about that movie is because I've never seen the movie, and I don't really plan on seeing it anytime soon.
I will defend aspects of that movie. I think as a whole, though, it just didn't. It did not work.
My thing when I did watch the trailer, my impression from the trailer is that this is a bridesmaid-esque humor style with Ghostbusters face decal on it. That's real. And so, well, the roots of Ghostbusters is that it's supposed to be a comedy. I felt like this was just so over the top and I'm more on the gross side of humor in this vein of like Bridesmaids, Hangover. I forget about the high school one I'm thinking of. Super
Superbad.
bad.
There it is.
They just put Ghostbusters on top of it.
So yeah, the movie, it has a lot of flaws, but it does have some really good moments, and we'll talk about that in the end when we get into spoilers. Because one of my points, and I know you and I talked about it briefly. Also, fun fact: we saw this movie. We saw like a 7:30 showing, and it was like almost 10 when we got out, and it was like -5 degrees. It felt like, so we wanted to talk about it, but then we were like, we need to go. It's cold. Our wives were freezing. Like it was a good time. There were guys dressed up as Ghostbusters in our theater.
I did see that. I did see a couple of guys dressed, and I'm like, yeah, good for you. I lost track of all my Ghostbuster stuff.
I know, right? Well, also there was a big time where you weren't allowed to dress up and go to movies, like after the Dark Knight incident a few years ago in Aurora.
Oh yeah.
Like they didn't want anybody coming in costume or anything along those lines. So I get it, but like now we're kind of moving away from that and moving towards going back to costumes because it's awesome. I love when I see people in costumes. Again, we went to Awesome Con and half the fun is just seeing people what they do when they dress up. It's awesome.
It is. It totally is.
So we kind of established our baseline thoughts and we've kind of established where we are, but I don't think we did. You do the episode with us with Ghostbusters Afterlife? I don't think so.
I don't recall right now. I want to say yes, but my memory's a little shaky right now. I'm like, that was something I probably would have been. Hey guys, if you're going to talk about this one, please call me up. You
Yeah, no,
know?
I feel like we did, but I'll have to look back at it. But Ghostbusters Afterlife rolled around, and the big draw of it was Ivan Reitman's son was going to be directing it.
Yes.
So that was like a big thing. He did not direct this movie. He was
No.
involved, I think, as an executive producer or something along those lines, but he definitely didn't. He did not write this movie, and you can tell. Ghostbusters Afterlife. It's funny because it's on upstairs right now. I was watching it before we jumped in, but Ghostbusters Afterlife rolled around, and it was good. I enjoyed it. It was such a love letter to Ghostbusters, and obviously there was a lot of emotion behind it. Harold Ramis had just passed away. Like the movie was about that closure. It was
Yeah.
not a perfect movie though.
I'm trying to think back now because I haven't seen it probably since I saw it the first time. I would probably give you, you're probably right. I think you probably maybe a little too heavy on the nostalgia at times. And there are other maybe quirky things because again, it's. I was thinking about this also on like on the when we were getting ready for recording about like why is this the Frozen Empire didn't feel the same, and I think a little bit is that the Ghostbusters franchise. The story it's a tough thing. Like you have a cool idea about Ghostbusters, but then what story can you craft around it? So, um, like the beginning, the first one is a going into business story. The second one is also kind of like getting back into business story. The third one, Afterlife, it's a combination of getting back into business again and but a girl just discovering who she is, where does she fit in things and whatnot. And I think there was just a lot of you have two right now. The struggle with this new generation is you want to have new characters so the audience have new people to follow, but you're not ready to let go of the legacy stuff.
Mhm.
And like you said, I think you're right. Afterlife is a great love letter. There are probably some moments that are awkward where it's trying to navigate that new territory of how do we have these new characters that are interesting and how do they assume the mantle of Ghostbusters?
Right. So for me, Ghostbusters Afterlife, The problem with the Ghostbusters female-led one was it was its own thing. It was not connected at all to Ghostbusters as a franchise. It was almost like a multiverse story. I think that's why we did it on the Multiverse Fancast because we considered it like an alternate universe. And it wasn't so much the cast, it wasn't so much the writing or the directing. Some of it was really good, but it was they had all the Ghostbusters and actors reprise their roles, or excuse me, do cameos, but as different roles. And like, if you're gonna
Mm.
get all of the original Ghostbusters, all of them, you can't recast them in different roles. They gotta be Ghostbusters. So I think that went too far one way, and Afterlife started to teeter too far the other way. And I will say, like Afterlife, rewatching it a few times, there's some issues with the pacing and the tone. Like it's not sure if it wants to be a horror movie. It's not sure if it wants to be, a comedy. Like it has trouble towing the line. But for the most part, we enjoyed it. I definitely can
Yeah.
do that. So with that, this is your official spoiler warning. We are going to jump into full thoughts and full review of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. So if you guys have not seen it, pause the episode. Make sure you leave a like if you're on YouTube,
Yep.
then come back to it after you've seen the episode. Official warning, all spoilers are abound. So, this movie rolled around and we watched it, and I think you and I both kind of have some mixed opinions of this movie.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I remember I'm happy that there was another Ghostbusters movie made. I'm hoping we contributed enough to the box office that they will just look at the numbers and like, yes, let's make another one. But there were times where I was watching the film and I'm like, oh, okay, that's obvious. Why are they doing that? I don't like this. It was a lot of there were parts that I'd be like, oh my God, that was funny. I laughed at it. I think the surprise cameo of Patton Oswalt, I think, was like the best side character in the whole thing,
Yeah.
actually.
So let's talk about characters because this movie is stuffed with characters. There are a lot of characters in this movie to the point where I would say there are too many. And
Yes.
some of them feel exceptionally shoehorned into the story. So let's go through the cast really quick. We'll start off with arguably the star of this new iteration of the franchise, McKenna Grace as Phoebe Spangler. I really enjoy her. I think she was great in Afterlife. She was great in this. She is not the downfall of these movies. Did I kind of lose interest with the whole like ghost love story? It was a little on the nose, but
I mean, I wasn't really sorry. The character is great of Phoebe Spangler, that actress. You're right. She's a highlight of these two films. I didn't have a problem with that side story because I kind of saw it more as, she feels she's the weird one, and they're originally from Chicago, so who does she really know in New York? Maybe you could argue, but that's a whole other time issue that we can talk about later, maybe.
mm,
But she probably feels more connected to ghosts, so that's why. But the scene where where she meets this ghost friend, just to me, it's just a little bit too unrealistic because she's in Washington Square Park at night. There's nobody around. Okay, that ain't gonna happen. Also, I'd be, scared for your life in New York City at that point.
oh god, yes.
And then, I mean, correct me on memory, but in Afterlife, Egon passed on to to the other side, right?
Correct. So
So they
that's
do a
another
fake out with us where she brings out these
the
chess pieces, and we're thinking, oh, Egon's gonna show up. I'm like, wait, no, he passed on. So who is she expecting to talk to with these chess pieces? Another random ghost?
So on that note, like the ghost of this universe, this movie is the first one that expanded on the actual supernatural aspect of the ghost, right?
Yes.
This franchise has always kind of teetered the line between science and supernatural, right? And they do a very good job combining the two. But this is the first time that we're getting psychic powers, possession, items that are haunted, different types of ghosts. But also, my question always is how come some ghosts still look human and those are few and far between? And then
Mm-hmm.
some turn into like monstrous type forms. So I think having that explanation, I would have enjoyed it. But again, it doesn't make or break the movie for me. And
No.
just like how McKenna Grace, she does a great job and she brings a lot of emotion. And I could see her moving forward, leading the team a little bit more. Now, characters I hate, and actors I just don't like either. Finn Wolfhard as Trevor Spangler. This movie would have happened the exact same way if Finn Wolfhard was not in it.
That
Like
is correct.
if his character was not in it, I'm guaranteeing that most of this movie would have happened as such. They don't know what to do with him,
Nope.
and it was obvious in Afterlife too.
I think that's again the issue of how do you have introduce these new characters? And I think again, these you have younger characters to draw the kids into, because this way it's like the Batman and Robin thing. You have Robin to draw the kids in. How do you make these young characters into Ghostbusters? And easiest way is family. But then you like, okay, so he's in Ghostbusters because he's a Spangler. But what does he contribute? Like we talked about the Extreme Ghostbusters, and while it's an updated version of the original cast, because you have the guy that was like the parts guy, the mechanic. You had the nerdy guy. She was a nerdy girl about the supernatural stuff who replaced the Egon in a sense, and you had the guy that was the Bill Murray Venkman, I just try to get the chicks sort of thing, you know. Whereas none of those type of roles, which I feel are like the core roles of, and there's the core roles of Ghostbusters, he doesn't fit any of those. He's the car guy because he's in the first film. I think he's 16 or 15. He wants to drive. This one, he's 18. He can just barely legally drive in New York City, and that's what it is. He wants to be the car guy, but they don't really do anything. Like if you had him showing working more on the car at least, then okay, hey, he's the car guy now.
Mhm. So again, he's in this movie. I never really liked him. He's only gotten worse in Stranger Things too. I don't know if you watch Stranger Things, but
Yeah, I have what? Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It's been so long, actually. So we've
oh,
binged like 4 seasons in one shot.
that'll happen. Moving down, we have Paul Rudd as Gary Gruberson, who takes on like the main Ghostbuster role in quotes. Now, I love Paul Rudd, and I
Yes.
think he's hilarious in this movie. I think he does a good job, kind of being the scientist and the comedic relief. I also enjoyed his story. Like he's like they never specific. They do mention it's been 2 years that they've been there doing this, but they never say that he and the mom are actually married.
Well, and I think this was an issue because I was thinking about this on the drive home before we recorded. Like, if there's a 2 year gap, how do you not have like the growth already happening off screen? Like, there should have been the idea of like either establish that they already they got remarried. Because I mean, like you're living with their mom, but you're not actually seriously in their life. And it's been 2 years. I mean, I didn't have step parents, but I still feel like you would have had at some point, like you probably have that talk about, are you in this for real or not? You know, and that shouldn't have been the plot of his character in this movie, I feel like.
I think it was nice to kind of see him trying to learn the balancing act because, as parents, you're never right. People
Yeah.
make mistakes. And as somebody who has had step parents and, been involved with that sort of situation, it's a fine line. Like, am I a parent? Am I an authority figure? Am I a friend? Am I just mom's boyfriend? Like, it's a lot. And I actually, from somebody who's experienced that, growing up, I actually enjoyed that. And you do see him like put his foot down. But for the most part, I enjoy Paul Rudd, and he's the fanboy that became a Ghostbuster. So that's probably why I related to him as well as I did. We have Carrie Coon as Callie Spangler. She doesn't really. It doesn't make sense a lot of like, but she's there. Like in all honesty, I feel like if they were gonna do this new team dynamic, it should have been Finn Wolfhard. Like, I want to leave. I don't want to do this. This isn't what I want to do with my life. Like, I want to go. But and then like the parents trying to keep it together, and then um, what's her face? Oh God, I totally forgot her name. Wow, Phoebe trying to like move it to the next level. I don't know. I feel like they could have done different with some of the writing, but yeah, Callie Spangler's there, and now she's wants to be a Ghostbuster and honor her dad's legacy. What did you think about Callie?
She's not a character that has any development. She's still a mom. You know, it's just that now she's got I guess a job. I guess they're still getting paid for all these discrimination services. We don't know. It could be a public service thing at this point.
Mhm.
But she just seemed fine. Unfortunately, she got stuck playing the role of a mom. Like, I'm mom, but you're not giving me any help here, stepdad, boyfriend, or whatever.
But she's there, like we said. But here we go. Let's talk about our main Ghostbusters who return. Our main actors. So Dan Aykroyd arguably has the bigger role. Like him and Ernie Hudson have much bigger roles in this film than they did in Afterlife. Dan Aykroyd's kind of like a mentor to them. He's still involved. He wants like this is what he wants to do with his life still. Like he even says, he's like, this is how I want to spend my retirement, hunting ghosts and doing all these things. Ernie Hudson I liked his aspect where he was actually expanding the Ghostbusters empire. Like, hey, we knew this stuff was going to go wrong. We've been doing research and we got a lab. I thought that was actually really cool. What did you think of Ray and Winston in this one? Because they also have some good character moments.
You're right. They had some really awesome character moments when they got to interact with each other. Ray is fine. I was happy seeing Ray. He's the another fanboy. Like he loves all this stuff.
Mhm.
Um, I think Winston's my favorite. I'm so happy to see him take more of a role in the series right now, like being the benefactor. I think that was really awesome. To see him kind of be like, yeah, like almost like he went from being the last one hired to being the guy bankrolling the whole thing. And I'm just so happy that he has to kind of like a better role, especially considering like how he kind of was treated behind the scenes in the first one, where like he was supposed to be equal footing and he didn't get that. And how again we joke about how when he went to try out to be the voice actor for the cartoon show, he didn't sound enough like himself.
Yeah. So, and we've heard him talk, and he like originally the role of Winston was supposed to be Eddie Murphy. So the original script was written for Eddie freaking Murphy. Like it was a bigger role, and like he tells it at cons. We actually heard him speak. I have an autograph from him somewhere, but basically he said, "Hey, like they called me up like the day before and like here's your new script," and I wasn't showing up for half the movie. So I agree. It's good to get his due. Annie Potts is Janine Melnitz. I do like seeing her suit up, which was a lot of fun. But again, another character, more glorified cameo. Not, but
Yes.
the most glorified cameo is Bill Murray as Dr. Peter Venkman. Now, he is in two scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Two. He is in the one scene where they discover that the guy's got fire powers,
Yep.
which was so out of left field. This was the
Yes.
first time that we saw real psychic powers in this franchise. It worked. We'll get to him in a second, though. And then he shows up for the final battle. The way that they promoted this movie, he is on every poster, he is on every trailer, he's in every, like he went to the press store. He made more money for 12 minutes of screen time than we will ever see in our entire lives. But I will say every second was worth it.
I
Oh,
don't
you're
know.
gonna
I
argue.
kind of
Oh, you're
feel
gonna
like
argue it.
no, because I feel like in the second scene near the end, like I would have thought it'd be funnier if the knock on the door was actually the mayor saying, "Okay, guys, I need your help." Actually, even though I hate your guts, I need your help. I thought that would have been a lot funnier.
That's
And then
fair.
the first thing he does, I'm here to, oh guys, I'm here to help you out. What's the first thing he does? He Fonzie's a panel and like, oh, they take out the whiskey. You know?
I thought that was actually really funny, though. I'm not gonna lie.
No, that was funny, but when I thought about it later, I'm like, that's not the no, no.
The one cameo, and we also had William Atherton as Walter Peck returns, and now he's the mayor, which I thought was actually really clever.
I thought that would no, he had like I saw him, I hated him, but I'm listening to him talk to Phoebe. I'm like, in the mayor's, I'm like, he actually makes a lot of sense.
Makes so much sense. Yes, there's a child firing a laser blaster outside of a car. Okay. Yeah, I hate it. He made sense in the first movie though, too, which is the worst. As adults, as adult people, we're like, it kind of makes sense. Like you got all these guys who are doing all sorts of experiments, and who knows what kind of things they're doing to the environment. And we do find out that the containment system's about to explode. So like he wasn't wrong. He was just a dick.
He didn't let them put he didn't, the government regulation. He didn't let them try to solve the problem the first time around. They were like, they recognized the Twinkie was getting big. They just didn't get a chance to like let them figure it out.
Well, so I love in the original Ghostbusters, he goes there in good faith too. He's like, "Hey, I'm from the EPA. I need to check out your stuff." He's just a jerk about how he goes about it. But like, he's like, "Hey, you need to show me this because I work for the Environmental Protection Agency. We got to make sure everything's above board. You have no permits for anything." And Peter Venkman's the one going, "No, I don't want to, and you can't make me." Like, as an adult, and especially considering the fields of jobs that you and I are in, that's wild to think.
Yeah, nope, I hear you. I hear you.
But there's one cameo, and I wanted it so bad. As the movie was happening, I knew exactly where I wanted it. I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I still wanted it. Was Rick Moranis as Louis Tully? It would have been legendary if when Phoebe gets arrested, he walks in as her lawyer.
Yes.
Oh my God. So for those of you guys who don't know, Rick Moranis took a long, he's done with acting for the most part. He'll do the occasional cameo. He did the Mint Mobile commercial with Ryan Reynolds, which was hilarious. A couple of voice acting roles, but it was after his wife passed away. He wanted to be more present and be there for his children. So he mostly retired from acting. Again, it was just a little lovelorn thing for me as a fan, because I loved Lewis in the movies. I thought he was
Yeah.
great, but it is what it is. All right. So some of the returning characters, we have Celeste O'Connor as Lucky, who I totally forgot was in the first movie. And again, she's there.
Yep.
Like, there's nothing more to say. In the trailers, it made it seem like she was going to die horrifically.
I don't remember that. Okay.
There's a trailer that shows, like, it shows it in the movie where she's trying to fight Garaka, and he's like getting closer, and like her tear ducts start to freeze. Like it made the trailer.
Oh
The
yeah.
trailer was cut to make it seem like she would die, and I was like, they wouldn't, because this movie got scary. There was a couple of jump scares, surprisingly. There was some scary imagery, but for the most part, I was kind of surprised. But again, she's there. She's
I would say her, and I'm going to jump ahead of it to whoever play Logan Kimma's podcast.
yeah,
These are characters that in Afterlife made sense because they moved across the country. You got you have high school age kids. They need to make friends, so that's how you introduce the new characters. But how do you justify bringing them all the way back to New York? You
Mhm.
kind of need them if you want to move forward. Then Ghostbusters Next Generation, but there's the thin air of like, oh, I got an internship, and oh, he's not renting out the Airbnb below in the basement, and that's how I got to be here. I'm like, no, like this, there's no legitimate reason for you guys to be here. Like, it would have been better if, sorry, it would have been better if Lucky somehow was like, oh, I'm studying paranormal sciences at NYU or Columbia.
Yeah.
That would have made at least because you're 18, you're college age. Why not do that instead?
Yeah, as much as I love Kim as podcast, and I do love when he and Phoebe are together, it's always a lot of fun. It made sense in terms of like he bonded with Ray at the very end of Afterlife, but again, it's stretch, big
Yes.
stretch. Some of our newer characters, though, we had James Acaster as Dr. Lars Pinfield, who basically works for Winston, and he gets a Ghostbusters outfit, even though I don't really like. He had no plot. He had no.
No.
He was literally just exposition the entire time. We also had, let's see, Emily Allen Lind as Melody, who we saw her being a bad guy probably a mile away. I don't know if you did, but I know like producer Melanie and I were like, she's a bad guy.
Um, I didn't pick up on it, I think, till probably the part where the big bad talks to her. I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. But I mean, so she has more of a femme fatale role. I didn't think that was too terrible, that coy ghost, but it's like, okay, why are we picking a random ghost to talk to all of a sudden?
I know, right? Let's see. We also have, you mentioned Patton Oswald as Dr. Hubert Wartsky. I don't know if that, I think that was how his name was pronounced, but he's only in the like 1.5 scenes where they go to the library, which was a great, and then you see the library ghost again, which was a lot of fun.
That was extra, not needed.
Oh, that was not needed at all. But the trailers made it seem like they were going to have to deal with every single ghost that they've ever captured, which I thought would have been a better story, in all honesty. But there's not a whole lot of ghost busting in this ghost busting movie.
No, you're right. It's they jump straight to the idea of like, all right, we have a big bad, and how do we get to the big bad? I did read up that they were trying to be base this a little bit more on what the real Ghostbusters cartoon episode would have been like, a bigger, better one.
Mhm.
But I feel like uh I almost feel like you need like a gauntlet with this type of with a Ghostbusters story where you have a build up almost kind of like how Bane set loose all of Arkham Asylum. Not saying you need to redo that plot of blow up the containment unit and now there's all the ghosts are free. Like, why would you do that ever again?
Mhm.
But just the idea of like you have like just a couple jobs, have them do a job, and like on the side there's this, hey, here's the overarch, like kind of like how like Angel and all those other shows procedurals have, you have the one week to week stuff, those are the daily jobs we see, and then you have the big overarching nemesis that you're like, in the last 30 minutes you have to figure out how to stop this thing.
Yeah, like even like a montage would have been nice. Like the original Ghostbusters movie, they only bust Slimer, and then it's a montage of them busting, and then it's their big boss fight. Like the proton packs are really only used like 3-4 times, or 3-4 sections of the movie. But
Did you catch, by the way, when they go to the library, the guy who greets them was
it's
the
the same guy.
original librarian?
Same guy, which is the best thing ever. And then the last character we'll talk about is Kumail Nanjiani as Nadim Razamati. Now, he is the whole reason that this plot happens. I like that he had no actual connection to the original Ghostbusters. I think that would have been a stretch, but
Hmm.
he has a legacy of a type of ghost banishment, we'll say, where his grandmother was the one protecting this orb. And they kind of went a little, not gonna lie, like as much as I laughed at like the beginning of when they find that chamber and they're making like jokes about his grandma having like some sort of sex dungeon, the first like joke or two, I was like, that's funny. And then by the time they got to the end, I was like, even I was like, all right, let's calm it down. These are children. But anyway,
Yes.
he's in the movie and he discovers that he has psychic powers. Now, I feel like I don't know. I don't have superpowers. I wish I had superpowers, but I feel like if I've had superpowers my whole life, I would have noticed by now.
Yeah, you would have thought it was something, oh man, you stubbed your toe and all of a sudden the stove blows up a little bit. You would have thought that would have happened.
Right. So he's a plot point in this movie. He gets the plot, but he does like he does have a slight arc where he like finds his courage and like kind of mans up to for a better lack of better phrase. And I thought he was funny. He was good comedic relief.
Yeah, I think with him being the MacGuffin, I think they mishandled that a little bit. They established like before you meet him that Ray has this podcast where they bring enchanted items or cursed items, and he tries to see if there's stuff there. Now they explain that that podcast was helpful for them with the experiments that Winston's doing with over like the ghost course stuff, which was great. But like, why not use like have a second visit, show us again another podcast episode, and then you bring the magical orb there? Why just have it just be guy off the street? I felt like they could have just tied it in a little bit nicer with him.
Yeah, and I would watch that podcast though. Not gonna lie.
Oh, I don't think I would have. But I think with the psychokinetic thing, when you're saying it now, it makes sense like in the world of Ghostbusters that there would be psychokinetics or psycho energy like that. But it just ultimately felt like to me, like, why are we bringing firebending into this world? Like, there's no need for firebending.
Especially considering Avatar just came out on Netflix. Really bad timing. Because I think I heard while we were in the movie, somebody went, "Oh, he's Zuko," like from Avatar. And I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
yeah.
no, that's right."
Well, and I think also too, like with fire, I feel like yes, thematically with ice is right. However, there's also been established in this universe that emotions have an impact on the environment at times. So when I see him getting upset and the flame going up, I'm not thinking, "Oh, he's a firebender." I'm thinking, "Oh, so now we're going to go into that Ghostbusters 2. We're going to use the positive energy ectoplasm maybe to fix the stuff." And we're just him, the fire reacting him is just a manifestation of emotions, and it wasn't specifically the fire, it was just a thing reacting to his negative emotions.
And I thought it was a bold choice for them to actually make him a psychic rather than because they were talking about all this possession stuff, like, and you kind of figured that that's where they were going to go with it.
Hmm.
But I thought it was a bold choice, and we'll see kind of where we're going now. That's pretty much the plot. We're not going to go plot point by plot point because that would just take forever. But we will say this movie was divisive, not just for us, but also for the critics. I remember I check out all the critic reviews beforehand because most of them are non spoilers, and it also gives me an idea of what's going on.
Mhm.
IGN was rough; they gave it like a 4. Uh,
Ooh.
one of my favorite reviewers, Jeremy Johns, he said it was good, but like it would be better if you were drunk. But like a lot of people, it's split down the middle, and unfortunately, that in today's society, that could be rough. So it did open slightly lower than the 2016 Ghostbusters with the female leads, but on a budget of $100 million, it is at right now standing at 61.6 million. So it has to make at least another 40 million just to break even. I am afraid of the word of mouth from this movie. There's going to be a big drop. But it's a big drop could be detrimental because I think that this movie was a good stepping stone, like you said, to a bigger franchise that they could do. They just have to figure out what they want to do. I would be okay if the next movie was them still trying to be the Ghostbusters, but like Ghost Corp taking over and doing more. And they're like, well, what about us? I could see something like that, or like some sort of worldwide ghost hunting. Like, I would be okay with a movie of just them busting ghosts because busting makes me feel good.
But also, I mean, there's that. Or again, you play up the you bring up the point that the reason why we still have the firehouse is because it's the finger in the dam with all the bad stuff happening. And I feel like so that could be the storyline where we developed the technology. A time jump wouldn't be terrible because now Phoebe's 18, she could legally work and do all this stuff, and you gotta worry about the mayor in that regard. But I think that would be like this is a stepping stone to maybe that storyline, or to take your idea of like, yeah, all like Chicago, LA, oh, they're doing great, but New York's kind of not making as much money as it used to.
Yeah. So I will say my biggest gripe with this movie, biggest gripe, and it is a gripe that I actually had with Afterlife also. My biggest gripe is the severe lack of the theme song. You laugh, but the Ghostbusters theme song is arguably at least top 5 most iconic movie theme songs of all time. Everybody knows the Ghostbusters theme song. Paul Rudd sings it. He like does the lines because like it was funny in the movie. I did enjoy it, but my biggest gripe is that they don't use it. They don't use it until the very last scene. There are plenty of times where they could have. They didn't use it in the opening credits like they did in the original movies,
Hmm.
and they could have used it. Where was the time that I wanted at the very end when when they all joined together to fight the Garaka? They
Yeah.
had plenty of moments that they could have just dropped it in. Same with Afterlife. Afterlife did not use the song during the movie. The best time would have been when they're fighting Gozer and like Gozer's about to win. Instead of them, instead of Bill Murray just being like, "Hey," and then it cuts over and they're like, "Did you miss us?" Had they fired proton packs from off camera and then it cut to them with the theme song playing, that would have been legendary. That would have made that movie near perfect just by itself. So
Yeah, that you're right. I could definitely the use of the song could definitely supercharge most moments because right, it's like their version of the Avengers theme. When that starts playing, you're like, okay, here we go now. It's go time.
So it is one of the few things that I also defend in the female-led Ghostbusters. There's a great scene where I think it's Kate McKinnon's character. She's about to like solo a bunch of ghosts, and they play an instrumental version at the time. I'll try and send you the link, but
Okay.
or like a clip of it, and it's so good. Like it's not the actual theme song, but it's an instrumental version, and
Yeah.
it's I like it. And again, the Ghostbusters theme song is so iconic. They've tried so many times to replicate it. They Fallout Boy did a cover for the female-led one, and it's all
Yeah, I
right.
think I remember hearing that.
The Extreme Ghostbusters had a cover, which was okay. Like it worked for the tone of the show, but
Yeah.
there's there's something so legendary about that song. Even now, like I still hear it on the radio every once in a while, like during like Halloween, especially they'll throw it on.
Yeah.
But like I was driving to work the other day and I put on 80s on 8 and they're playing it. I was like, what? That's the best day ever. But let me get a Star City rating for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
I'm
Ooh.
gonna have to I think 2.5.
Pure average movie, like right down the middle.
I mean, well, to me, like, if this was like, again, it's an okay, it's a fun time, I guess. If you know, my wife enjoyed it. She hasn't barely seen any of the Ghostbusters stuff, and to me, that usually puts it as a 3. But as I'm thinking more of maybe I'm being too nitpicky, but in my head, I'm like, this could have been different. This could have been better. This doesn't make any sense. There's too many other things where I'm like, I think it's a 2.5 out of 5. So,
Yeah.
and I feel bad saying that. I think this ranks as my least favorite Ghostbuster movie.
But it's still down the middle. So like it's not bad, it's not great. It's just it's there. For
Yeah,
for me, I give it a 3. I found it way more enjoyable than I thought I would. It wasn't as good. Actually, scratch that. It wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, but I
yeah.
still found it enjoyable. There are plenty of moments that I liked. I liked seeing them in the firehouse again and kind of living there and working out of there. Because like the Oklahoma thing got really old after like, the first half of the movie. I was kind of done with it. But again, a 3, and I want do better, Ghostbusters. Just do better.
Please, please.
Yeah, but that is going to wrap us up for today. We don't have Fan Feedback Friday just because logistically we are recording in the past because I'm going away on vacation and we're trying to get this out to you. So we love you. You're welcome. But no Fan Feedback Friday today. If you guys want to participate in Fan Feedback Friday, it's super easy. You go to our Facebook page every Friday between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We tend to post that if I remember. That's my fault. But make sure you guys, while you're there, you like, comment, and subscribe to the page. Also, like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Also, write in the comments. If you're on YouTube right now, write in the comments. Tell us what your favorite Ghostbusters moment or movie was and why. We would love to debate it and discuss with you guys. And if you want more of Brendan's content, you go over to BlindBat8719 on YouTube. And what do you do on YouTube, Brendan?
On YouTube, I create videos of me playing Magic the Gathering on the Brawl format. So if you like Magic the Gathering, check out my videos. Yeah, any questions, leave a comment and I'll try to get back to you.
That's awesome. But that is going to wrap us up for today. As always, I'm Paul,
And I'm Brendan.
and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.